Hi, this is your friendly internet horror narrator here once again, HS1, Horror Studio 1, coming to you with the live stream. So today there will be no video. I want to do a live stream for you guys today because you guys have been really enjoying the podcast and live streams lately, and I feel like I'm going to bring them back a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it is about 1-ish now, thus it's pretty bright. I have today off, so I was just gonna do a live stream for you guys today. And the process of this live stream is just gonna be me reading a creepypasta by a horror writer who sent it to me a couple months ago. It's a pretty long creepypasta. I wanted to do it in one live reading, though. Hopefully we can get through all 4 parts today. And if you guys yourselves have some true scary stories you want to share with me or any of the other viewers, send me a blank email at horrorstudio1@gmail.com to get in here. I love my hand signs. Without further ado, before I do that, though, let's go and close those drawers. Because I remember the last video I did, somebody was like, dude, you know, I have OCD seeing you with your drawers and your closet open. Okay, seriously, guys, my closet doesn't have a freaking door, all right? I want to close it. When I was a kid, I was terrified of it. It looks like there's people in there, but there is no door. Like, there's no physical door I can close. Like, I close my eyes and that's it. Like, that's the only thing I get. I don't have to see it. That's the only way I don't have to see that thing. The drawers, yes, okay, look, God, they're open. Yes, all right, now, I'm gonna close it for you, all right, close it, all right, no more OCD, guys, honestly, because my mom was like, you know, my mom cares more, you know, because I do, like, TV stuff as well, like, I host a show on TV, and I do YouTube and all that, so I'm actually pretty natural in front of the camera. My mom is like, every time I make like a tiny mistake on TV or on YouTube, she goes friggin' berserk about it. Oh wait, all right, fine. This one too, right? This one too, Mom. Mom, this one too, all right? My mom is like hardcore, like, close your drawers. All your fans are saying you're like a messy person. God damn it, okay? God, just had to get that out of my system. So we'll read the chat. The chat's like, is this guy insane or something? And now I gotta talk about the pants. All right, tell you about something else. Close that shit. All right, so yeah, actually, so if you guys have your own true scary stories, send me a blank email at horrorstudio1@gmail.com. Doing the podcast, you know, live streams. What else did I want to say? Oh, send me more ghost stories because I've been lacking them lately. If you guys could please send me, you guys realize maybe I've read less ghost stories on my live streams. The reason is because I'm trying to save them for the actual videos that come out. Please send me more ghost stories. If you have more ghost stories, please write them longer and with more detail and proofread them. I know you guys maybe in a hurry sometimes. Maybe you're writing this on a bus or something, and you guys tend to write sentences without any commas or periods. It's really hard for me to narrate that. If you guys can send me more ghost stories so I can put more ghost video content, because a lot of you guys have been saying that you guys liked it more when I did paranormal themed videos, but the thing is I haven't been getting a lot of good stories lately, so it's been really hard for me to do that. So please send me more of your own true ghost stories so I can do that for you guys. Please and thank you. All right, let's get to the narrating. So if you guys have your own true scary story, send me a blank email at horrorstudio1@gmail.com to get in here. There's something terribly wrong with my son. He's only 4 months old, but I can still tell that he isn't acting like himself. He used to laugh whenever I made funny faces, but now he just stares at me. He stares at me with a blank yet strange expression. He used to cry at night, just like any normal infant, but now he just lies there looking at the ceiling from the comfort of his crib. It's downright weird. I'm not even sure if he's sleeping anymore. Every time I get up in the middle of the night to check on him, He's just lying there with that same facial expression, staring at nothing. He stares at nothing, that is, until I enter the room. Then he turns his attention to me. I don't like it. I truly don't. I decided to take the little guy to the doctor's office shortly after the string of occurrences began. As unsettling as the ordeal seemed, I was more concerned than anything else. This was my only child after all, and being a single parent tends to leave little room for me to do much else but worry. Sometimes I wish I had someone to share the burden with. For now, it's just me and him. Upon arriving at the doctor's office, I noticed that there were others in the waiting room, a mother, her son, and their service dog. I'm fairly certain that the mother was deaf. The boy looked to be about 3 years of age. He looked over at us and smiled, but his amused demeanor was abruptly replaced with what appeared to be a look of terror. He scrambled over to his mom's leg and hid behind it. This is when the dog looked over at us and began barking wildly. It was the weirdest thing. The mother managed to calm down both her son and the dog, and the three of them took their turn with Dr. Harrison. They eventually left, leaving only my son and myself. We continued to wait while Dr. Harrison prepared for our apartment. The time that then passed must have amounted to only a few mere minutes, but it felt like a hell of a lot longer. I could see my son staring at me out of the corner of my field of vision. I could feel his eyes piercing through mine, even though I refused to look back at him. I can't explain it, but an odd sense of anxiety began growling within me. Luckily, Dr. Harrison came out and saved me from my private anguish. It sounds awful, but I could not bear to be alone with my son any longer. I spoke with Dr. Harrison and explained everything that's been going on, being careful not to tell him about what had just happened in the waiting room. I didn't want him thinking I was crazy. He performed the usual test on my son and told me that he was a perfectly normal and healthy baby. He even told me that I was lucky that he was so calm at his age. Lucky, really? I could not wrap my head around this. No, I wasn't, and no, my son was not normal. Normal babies don't act this way. They just don't. I could have ignored the situation and chalked it up to an odd phase that he was going through. Only that would hopefully pass in the coming months. But not only did it not pass, it also became much, much worse. I tucked my son into his crib just a few nights ago and tried my best to ignore the blank glance that he threw my way. I turned off the lights and went to bed. This was my normal routine. At roughly 3 in the morning, I woke up. I don't know why I woke up at such an odd time. I usually sleep through the night like a baby. For lack of a less ironic phrase, I am, however, glad that I woke when I did, due to what I had found upon waking. Well, glad in a sense. There, on all fours, crawling about on my bed was none other than my son. How was that even possible? I quickly looked over at the crib. It was just how I left it. There was no way he could have crawled out of there at his age. He surely would have hit the floor with a loud thud and injured himself. So how exactly did he get from his crib to my bed? How? I put my son back in his crib and tried to go back to sleep. I found this task to be nearly impossible as I couldn't get the image of my son out of my head. When he was crawling on my bed, he was crawling towards me. Not only this, but he still had that blank expression on his face, staring at me as he crawled, his eyes never wavering. He didn't blink, not even once. Was he crawling? Why was he crawling in my direction? What would he do when he finally reached me? The question that filled my frightened brain were too much for me to simply go back to sleep. I stayed up for the rest of the night and spent most of it staring at my son's crib. Eventually, my weariness did catch up with me. Shortly after the sun came over the horizon, I passed out. It must have been a few good hours before I woke up again. After rubbing my eyes a few times and looking over at the crib, I realized something not in it. I jumped up quickly and investigated. I tossed his blankets around, only to find that it was really empty. He was gone. I looked over at my bed, and he was not there either. I turned my apartment upside down looking for him. I checked every room, every little nook and cranny I could possibly find. While doing this, there was quite a large knot in the pit of my stomach. Could neither tell if I was worried for my son's safety or if I was just plain scared. Perhaps it was a bit of both. I finished scouring my apartment and went back to my room to catch my breath when I saw nearly took it away again. There, lying in his crib, was my son, as calm as could be. Crib and just with that unnerving expression on his. I realized then that he frightened of an infant. I looked at him for a few more moments before speaking. What are you? His eyes widened upon hearing me speak. I cannot be certain, but I think that maybe for just a split second, my son might have grinned at me. Getting chills, man. That is creepy. So if you guys have your own true scary stories, send me a blank email at horrorstudio1@gmail.com to get in here. Let's go to the chat and see if you guys have any questions. Bananas are sexy. Okay. Thank you. HS1, shout out. You're the best. By God's game for you all day. Thanks, man. My email is horrorstudio1, like the name of the channel, @gmail.com. Are you Korean? No, I'm Chinese. I love you. Thank you, Angel. I love you as well, but your profile pic is kind of, it's not you, is it? No, okay. It's kind of creepy. Yeah, guys, I'll try to respond to everyone's email. I do get a lot, but I do try to get to. And now, if you guys want to get into my videos more, send me a longer, more detailed story, ghost story preferably, because I need those, guys. It's what I'm drinking right now is a Starbucks Cool Lime. You're such a good YouTuber. Thank you, MLG Gamer 121. How old are you? I'm 24. So if you guys want to tell me a scary story, send me a blank email right now at horrorstudio1@gmail.com to get in here. Do I like bananas? Yes. I'm the year of the monkey, dude. So, all right, let's get to part 2. It's been almost a week since my son crawled up onto my bed somehow. Since then, I've set up a video camera in the room just to see what it might catch. The camera makes me feel safer than I did before. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it's the camera that's keeping him from doing anything else. At least I managed to get a little bit of sleep at night now that it's there. The camera is of a very decent quality. It has night vision, HD audio capture, everything I need to watch over the actions of my son at night. If he even so much as moves a limb, I'll see and hear it. I finally had a way to combat my woes, but setting up this expensive piece of equipment did make me feel foolish. It's one thing to monitor your child for their safety, but I was in fact spying on my son to see if he was up to something. It wasn't for his safety, it was for mine. It sounds crazy, I know. But what happened next did confirm my suspicions, if only to a small extent. Until last night, the footage was completely normal. My son slept through the night as I tossed and turned. The second night of recording, however, was a bit strange. The first few hours were normal, much like the night before, but that is when my son did something surprising. Using his tiny, undeveloped arms and legs, he stood up in the crib. Using the bars to lean on, he adjusted himself to face the camera and stared at it. He stared for a solid 12.5 minutes with that horribly unsettling blank expression of his before lying back down. The part that really gets me is about halfway through the clip, where he actually lets go of the bars and is standing up on his own for a few moments. This, to me, was utterly unexplainable. I was shocked. The plethora of theories bombarded my mind at an alarming rate. From the mundane to the sinister. Maybe he was just advanced for his age, having the ability to not only stand up straight, but also escape the confines of his crib and crawl up onto my bed like he's done it almost a week previously. I quickly discarded this thought, deeming it nearly impossible. Perhaps he isn't my son at all. Maybe he is something else entirely, not even a he, but an it. I discarded this theory as well, not wanting to give it to any notions of the supernatural. It just wasn't logical. I knew I would have to speak with Dr. Harrison again to potentially put my wary mind at ease. I had already made an appointment to see Dr. Harrison again later in the week, but after seeing this footage, I had him squeeze me in early. I made my way to his office once again, son and all, and patiently sat in the waiting room. To my son's blank stare like before, but it still made me feel uneasy. As he waited, his stare became increasingly more difficult to ignore. For whatever reason, I felt compelled to look back at him, even though I knew it would make me anxious to do so. Even so, I turned my head downwards and stared at him. His eyes, his eyes. There was something wrong with his eyes. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was something terribly off about them. They were the same eyes, but they just seemed different. I don't quite know how to explain it. Luckily, Dr. Harrison came out of hiding, put an end to our nerve-wracking staring match. What a relief. I don't know why, but I feel like I would just have to keep staring at my son, seemingly to no end. Rather than dwelling on my inner fearful inclinations, I focused on the task at hand. Skipping the seemingly normal parts of the video, I showed Dr. Harrison the odd occurrence from the second night. He watched in awe as my 4-month-old son stood up on his own and faced the camera. Becoming impatient, I asked for his thoughts on it. You know what he had to say? He actually congratulated me on having such a well-developed child. He said that my son was advanced for his age and that he was glad to have helped him along within the process, as if he had anything to do with it. Telling him about the night he crawled onto my bed, he did no results either. It only added to his already oversaturated ego. I was absolutely flabbergasted by his reaction. In any case, I did manage to get the receptionist to refer me to a specialist in infant behavior on my way out. I desperately needed someone to talk to that wasn't completely oblivious to the matter. I went home, both angry at Dr. Harrison and exhausted from the ordeal, mentally as well as physically. I put my son in his crib, being careful not to look at his eyes again, as much as I felt the need to. I went out to the living room and sat down on the couch in an attempt to unwind. I shut my eyes for a moment and quickly fell asleep. I dreamt. In my dream, I was sitting on the couch, just like I was before falling asleep. I tried getting up, but my legs and arms felt very heavy and sluggish. I gave in to the situation and I took a look around and noticed that the room looked a little bit different. The frames I had up on the wall containing pictures of my wife and my son were now empty. It was then that I began to feel dizzy as a strange knot grew in my stomach. I felt a need to look over to my left, towards the bedroom. There, standing up on his own, was my son. He was at the doorway to the bedroom, just staring at me. Before I could even privately react, he began walking. In an awkward slush of movement, my son walked towards me. His stride was grotesque and unnatural, causing the knot in my stomach to grow larger. He continued to walk until finally reaching a spot just a few inches from where I was sitting. He reached his hand out towards me as I watched in horror. What was he gonna do? Why was this happening? Why? I woke up before my son's hand could reach me. I jumped up in fear, still half asleep, and ran into the bedroom. I rushed over to the crib, and a wave of relief overcame me. He was still in there, staring blankly up at me like he always did. Thank goodness. I walked back over to the couch and sat down to collect my thoughts. It seemed that even in my sleep, I'm not safe. This mess that I found myself in is causing me not only a great deal of stress, but also to have nightmares. I need it to end. I'll be giving the specialist a call shortly after to set up an appointment. In the meantime, it's back to square one, trying to get some shut-eye while recording the actions of my son in hopes of finding some answers. It seems that this is what our little family has come to. We now lie at the cross-section of strange and completely mad. I, for one, just want everything to be over and done with, so I can finally get a good night's rest. Dude. Dr. Harrison is in on it, dude. It's either the story's gonna be like he's like possessed by a demon or a devil, or it's like an alien or something. And Dr. Harrison is either like a demon or like some kind of guide, or he's like an alien himself, and it's like inside the child. I bet that's how it is. Trust me, guys. So if you guys have your own true scary story, send me a blank email at horrorstudio1@gmail.com to get in here. Now let's check the chat. How long will this live? Probably like an hour or something like that. Yeah. So we're about halfway there. Tara says, love how you narrate the stories, HS1. You're awesome. Do you live in America or Canada? I live in Canada, actually. So Olivia's like, you sound completely different. Yeah, I do. I get into my storytelling mode. Cassie says, I like your videos. Thank you. Do you have any questions? What's up? What's up? What's up, guys? What's up? Just got a text. Never mind. You are epic. Thank you, man. It's just when, do you remember me? I actually don't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. A lot of people come by here, so. But if you want to come talk to me, send me a blank email. Thank you, Susan. I love you as well. Do you use a mic? I use a mic. I don't know. Love your work ethic. Yeah, man. I watch you every day. Thank you. Thank you for supporting. Give a like. And subscribe to my, go like me on Facebook, go to my Instagram, and other stuff, and Twitter as well. So I don't post a lot of my stuff there. Mostly here. So subscribe, I guess. Can I send an email from my phone? Yes, you can, but make sure you proofread it, bro. I don't want that texty stuff. It'll be hard for me to narrate, you know what I'm saying? Oh, the German haunted house. I think I remember you. Yeah, I think I remember you, bro. Videos are awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I'm not. I'm not. Okay. When people like your channel, can you see who likes? I actually can't see who likes it. I see who comments, but I guess comment more, but not likes. That's the way YouTube works. I don't know. All right, so let's get to part 3. And then if no one comes in, because I feel like you guys Not a lot of people have stories. Maybe it's too early, but ooh, I'm just gonna read the stories I have in my email. But I try not to do those because I want to keep those for a video. Because I desperately need ghost stories. So send me long ghost stories and I'll put it in a video. Or like themes. What themes do you guys think I should do for the ghost stories? Because I want to make it a theme video instead of just like a subscriber video. So maybe a theme could be Uber ghost stories. And if you guys have any suggestions for the podcast, you guys can put in the comments as well. Thank you. Love your videos. They're amazing. Thanks. All right, let's get to part 3. I have called Miss Dewitt, the specialist, and we set up an appointment for next week. I would feel enthused about this had the situation not escalated last night. It seems my son's behavior had just taken another turn for the worst. Unfortunately, I seem to be the one and only target for his nightly antics. Many times during this ordeal, including now, I have asked but a simple question that I can never seem to get a clear answer to. Why me? While we're on the subject of questions, another one has haunted me as of late. Why does my son act in the manner that he does? I really need to know why. And then there's the dreams. What is their significance? I could understand if it were only the one, but that is not the case. It seems that every time I close my eyes, a new film reel begins rolling, with every new movie starring my son as the antagonist. Every narrative is structured differently, but the plot remains the same. I am always frozen and unable to move, whilst my son finds new and unique ways to terrify me, before finally making his way to wherever I am. I then wake up in a cold sweat, as frightened as I was while sleeping. I suppose it doesn't matter how each narrative is woven. I always end up caught in my son's malevolent web. Even so, these nightmares could just be the byproduct of an overactive, anxiety-ridden imagination, right? Yes. At least, that is what I tell myself to feel better about them. But that doesn't necessarily mean they aren't meaningless. Besides, the fear I feel while dreaming is nothing compared to what I feel while awake. Like the feeling I had last night, for instance. Instead of explaining to the events as they unfolded, I will start off by portraying them through the footage, if only through the sake of transparency. You will understand what I mean as we begin. Up to a specific point, the footage was almost identical to the video I captured the other night. My son stood up on his own and faced the camera, followed by what I am now convinced might be a protrude and menacing gaze. This is when things get a little strange, or should I say, stranger. After a few moments of my son staring, the camera seems to fall off of the shelf that I placed it on, landing lens first onto the floor. Then, that is when I woke up. Before continuing, I would like to share some of my thoughts on what might have happened. It is true that the camera may have simply fallen off the shelf, but I swear that I placed it in a position that left it secure. It also may be important to note that nothing else that was on the shelf had fallen off, so whatever did cause the camera's untimely descent didn't disturb anything else. I personally believe that my son somehow caused the camera to fall when he stared at it. I'm aware of how that sounds, but it isn't as far-fetched when considering everything else that's been going on. I'm not really sure one way or the other for now. We'll get back to the incident in question. From this point forward, I will explain the events from my perspective, if only for a clearer picture that the falling camera can provide. I woke to a loud thud and jumped up immediately. I was worried that it may have been my son falling out of his crib. Upon further inspection, I noticed that he once again had vanished. After tossing his blankets around in his crib looking for him, I heard the once familiar sound of my son crying. I abruptly stopped my search and stood still, stunned. My son had not displayed a single emotion since his odd behavior started, let alone shed a tear. I was most certainly taken aback by this. I processed everything before regaining my composure. The sound of my son crying was coming from the direction of the living room. I ran out there as fast as I could, but the crying stopped almost as suddenly as it had begun. I turned the lights on, but my son was nowhere to be found. The crying started up again a few moments later. Only then it was coming from the kitchen around the corner. I ran out there only to have the crying stop once more and to find that my son was not there either. What the hell was going on? I sat down on the kitchen floor and attempted to calm myself down. I hadn't noticed before, but I was shaking from the adrenaline. Why was this happening? How is any of this possible? I asked myself these questions, but knew not the answers nor how to find them. I couldn't even find my son for that matter. It seemed my nightmares were bleeding into my waking life, and there was not a single thing that I could do to stop it. I continued to sit on the floor, unable to keep from shaking. This is when the sound of crying started up again. This time, it was coming from back in the bedroom, where this impromptu late-night adventure began. As I ran from the kitchen to the bedroom, my heart pounded my chest. I was scared. I didn't know what I would do upon entering my bedroom, but whatever it could have been simply scared the hell out of me. Even still, I had to keep running. I had to see if my son was safe, even if he wasn't himself. And so that's exactly what I did. Bedroom, the sounds of crying ceased. I ran over to the crib and saw my son lying there. He was once again staring at me with that eerie expression of his. I was relieved that he was safe, but still frightened by what had happened. My breathing became irregular and a tightness formed in my chest. It was the onset of a panic attack, I think. I needed to take another moment to pull myself together. I walked over to my bed and sat down, hoping that I wouldn't fall apart right then and there. I had to stay focused and keep this family functional somehow. The stress and lack of sleep were taking a large toll on me. Despite this, I tried my best to explain the night's events to myself in a logical fashion. It became quickly apparent that I could not. While replaying these events in my head, however, I did realize something. I stood up and walked over to the crib where my son was lying. I hesitantly reached my hand out towards him. I carefully brushed my fingers across his cheeks and noticed that they were not wet. There had been no tears. Wow. All right, so the part 4 is quite long. I feel like the end of the story, and that's like speculation, it's gonna be like the son makes this guy go crazy, and then eventually they're the doctors and everybody like, oh, it's because he was, he's too stressed from being a single dad, and he like just lost it or something, but it's actually the son that's like a demon or an alien. Thank you. They're like, good job. All right, so what's creepy? No one's home right now. Even though it's morning, I don't know, I'm kind of freaked out from reading the story. Honestly, creepypastas freak me out more than true stories. Because I've always been afraid of ghosts, right? Hi. Is it Cassie? Keeps saying I said their name wrong. Is it Cassie or Casey? I always used to think there was a demon in my closet, dude, because there's no door. There's no door. All right? There's nothing I can do about it. Like what? Take like a friggin' like huge ass drawer or something and just put it in front of it or something? Come on. I closed those things already. I closed those drawers already. Where are you from in Canada? I am from Toronto. Well, I hope, Ashley, that it's helping your work day. I know work sucks, but you know what, guys? I think I have a great job. This is my job, guys. Are you jealous yet? Turn around. Dude, that's so creepy, man. Because no one's home right now, man. How's Monday feeling for everybody? Hang a curtain over it. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. What time? It's around 2:05 p.m. in Toronto right now. Yeah, Michigan is super close to us, so. Everyone's like, Mondays sucks. Yeah, Lily Singh is from Toronto as well. Don't know her personally, but she looks like a lot of my brown friends. She kind of looks similar to them. There's no eyes behind me. Stop saying that. It's freaking me out. All right, so the next part 4 is quite long, so I'm gonna probably take a break in the middle. And if you guys have your own true scary stories, want to come in here, send me. I'll like email horrorstudio@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link to get in here. Actually, before reading part 4, no, let's actually read part 4 first, and then we're gonna do some other stories as well. You know what's sad? I have more people watching now that I'm just like talking about random stuff than when I was narrating. So makes me feel sad, guys. Come on. Why you guys leaving, huh? Just want to talk about stupid stuff? And shadows and shit? All right, let's get back to the story. My appointment with Miss Dewitt was earlier today. I must say that I do feel a bit strange. I don't really think that I can trust anyone anymore. My son and I are going to have to deal with this issue on our own. It is apparent to me that nobody can help us. Not Dr. Harrison, not Ms. Dewitt, not a single human being on this earth. As alone as this revelation makes me feel, I somehow feel empowered at the same time. It has put things into perspective and is allowing me to take my life into my own hands, no matter how messy my situation is. Deep down, I know I can get through this. At least I hope I can. Allow me to explain what happened. After another restless night with my son, I sluggishly began getting ready for my appointment with Miss Dewitt. For whatever reason, I was very nervous. This was odd, as I had no reason to feel that way. I should have been excited, if anything. After all, this quite possibly could have been the first step in helping my son with whatever ailed him. Even still, I could not shake the feeling. Skipping breakfast due to a loss of appetite from my nerves, I quickly left with my son. The drive took roughly 40 minutes, as Ms. Dewitt's office was in the next town over. Say that the drive went smoothly, but it did not. About 15 minutes in, I decided to check on my son with the aid of my rearview mirror. He had been silent the whole time, but I put off on checking on him until that moment, due to my own fear of his unnatural gaze. I knew I wouldn't like what I saw when looking in my mirror, but I did not know to what extent. Upon looking at my mirror, I noticed that my son was gone. His booster seat was still there, but it was empty. My heart sunk as I quickly turned into the breakdown lane and slammed on my brakes. I stumbled out of my car in haste and opened the back door. I scouted the entire vehicle looking for him. I flipped over his booster seat, tore everything out of the car that wasn't tied down, and nearly ripped up the upholster looking for him. Despite my best efforts, my son was nowhere to be found. I wondered just for a moment if I left my son at home. I tried to remember everything I had done that morning, but it was all a blur. I blamed this on my lack of sleep just before convincing myself that I needed to drive back home and see if he was there. I realized that I hadn't looked everywhere just yet. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but I felt like I needed to check the trunk. It is true that I didn't look there, but it was of course with good reason. How in the world could a baby get from his booster seat to the trunk in a moving car? But then again, how could he do any of the things he had been doing recently? Maybe, just maybe, my son was in there. In a confused stupor, I reluctantly unlocked and opened the trunk. Surely enough, my son was there. He was lying on his back in the same way he lies in his crib. And was, of course, staring up at me. I would have been shocked that he was in there, but I was more so fed up. My son's hijinks were mentally exhausting. They continued to take their toll on me, even in the middle of the highway. I just wanted it to all stop. I put my son back in his booster seat and got back on the road, pretending that nothing had happened. This was not before checking him for any injuries or bruising. There were none. This didn't surprise me either. Nothing did. I chose to focus on the road and my journey ahead as opposed to the peculiar things that seemed to control my day-to-day life. It was all I could do to keep me from going completely and utterly insane. All right, so I am going to take a break, but I feel like the dude might actually be insane. Do you guys think so? Like, he actually might be insane. Maybe it's not the sun. And also, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but my stomach is grumbling like crazy because I was just at the gym. So, let me think. I want to go grab some food downstairs. I know it's weird to just leave this room. So, let's play for some music for you guys. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Let's play an old video for like 30 seconds. 3 hunting ghost stories. All right, that's pretty popular. I'll be back. 2 seconds. The hunt. It was about 5:30 in the morning when I left the house. The sun would not be up for at least an hour, which would give me plenty of time to get my deer stand on my property and settle in before legal hunting light would arrive. The first thing I realized on that late October morning was that the air was remarkably still. The leaves on the New England forest floor were heavily frosted from the overnight cold, and there was no wind to speak of. Although my tree stand was only 200 yards away, I knew my approach was going to require some forethought. My first step from the grass of my yard to the frozen little litter of the woods was about as subtle as jumping into a barrel full of potato chips with both feet during church. With no rustling from the wind to help conceal my movements, there was no way I was going to be effectively sneaking throughout the woods. So I decided to resort to an old trick I had learned in the past. Being very familiar with these woods and the path I needed to follow, I secured my 25 pounds of gear, shouldered my compound bow, and began jogging through the woods to my destination. Although my unconventional approach was about as stealthy as a runaway dump truck crashing into a factory, I was not going to provide the deer in the area with the telltale, rhythmic cadence of a walking human being, and as loud as his method was, I was not going to be disruptive for nearly as long as if I had tried to be quiet. The tree stand is a ladder stand, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with hunting, is basically shaped like the capital letter L standing on its head, with the short end of the L secured about 20 feet up on the side of a tree. The long leg of the L is a ladder, and the short short leg is a platform with a seat. I stood at the bottom of the stand for several minutes before allowing myself to catch my breath, and then quietly climbed the ladder, hauled up my gear, secured my safety harness, and settled in, finally allowing the woods some quiet. Within about 10 minutes, the woods slowly began to come to life. I could hear small, unknown, unseen animals rustling through the leaves below, and heard a couple of clucks and cuts from a group of roosted wild turkeys in some hardwood treetops a short distance away. Confident my ass over tea kettle assault had worked, I readied my gear and prepared for sunrise. After a few minutes of listening, I heard the crunch of a heavy but seemingly cautious footfall to my left. 10 seconds later, it was followed by another, then another. The cadence was immediately identifiable. Great, I thought. I had taken the effort, albeit unconventionally, to try to mask my two-legged noises, just to leave another hunter walk right up to see my tree stand and notify the forest that the humans are in the house. Curiously, this person was approaching me from the east, the direction of my house. No one else in my family hunts, and if there was an emergency at home, my teenagers know where the tree stand is and would have shouted to get my attention. More than a little bit peeved about potentially having the opening moments of my hunt ruined, and also having someone hunting so close to her house without permission, I stood up in my stand, contemplating my impending diatribe. A very faint glow of color had started to show as my part of the earth turned towards the sun, but beneath the canopy of the forest, the world remained pitch black. The hunter's approach was slow, but seemingly deliberate, and I began to think that this person was actually coming to use my stand. Giving them the benefit of the doubt that they would just continue past me, I kept silent as the footfalls neared. Guessed to be approximately 15 yards away, the hunter stopped. After a few moments, I presumed they must be checking a compass to get their bearings or something, but I saw no flashlight. Still completely surrounded by darkness, I waited for their next move. Passed and then 10. No sound, no movement. Increasingly agitated, I realized that it was decision time. I decided it was time to alert this bonehead that not only was he or she ruining my hunt on my land, but they were also in close proximity to angry men with several pointy sticks. Just as I opened my mouth to shut, I heard the crunching of frozen leaves and the crackling of breaking branches a short distance away from me to my right, in the opposite direction of the hunter. Having spent a large part of my life in the woods, it was obvious to me that this was a large, four-legged animal approaching rapidly, its approach somewhat haphazard, as if it had been scared by possibly yet another hunter. I turned towards the noise and expected the deer to break into view. Just as it neared the break in the brush near my stand, it froze. Although I had the benefit of its approach to pinpoint its location, which now was probably only 10 yards away, there was still too much cover between us for me to see the deer in the early morning darkness. Well, this is interesting, I thought. The other hunter had to have heard the deer's approach just as clearly as I did, so I did not expect him or her to move. Had the deer stopped because it had smelled or otherwise sensed the humans it had stumbled into? I don't know, but I did know now, as the sun actually broke over the horizon, that it was too close for me not to get a look at it before it departed. The second ticked as the sun slowly made its entrance, illuminating the woods, making unrecognizable shapes into the familiar trees, boulders, and terrain features I knew intimately. I strained in the direction of the deer, sensing it, but not quite hearing it or seeing it. The underbrush too dense to penetrate with my eyes. I caught a faint silver of what appeared to be a white fur through the branches and craned my neck to try and get a better look, but it disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Just as I shifted, the deer growled at me, a very low, guttural growl. This, my friends, was a true what the fuck moment. This is not a deer. My mind quickly began processing what this animal could be. Fox, Way too big? Coyote? Still too big? Bear? Too quick? I pulled an arrow from my quiver and readied my bow. Seconds felt like hours, knees knocked, bladders weakened, bowels loosened. All I knew was whatever it was not something I was hunting for, but it knew where I was and was waiting for either its chance to attack or escape. The sun broke its full spherical shape. I have to presume I did not see it because it was behind me and I was not turning away from the animal lurking somewhere in front of me. As the sun rose, I began to be able to see portions of the forest floor as the light reached it. The woods in front of me took shape and then color as I motionlessly waited. The thicket where the animal stood was now completely visible. I could see every branch, twig, leaf, but I could not see it. For about 30 minutes, straining to see this beast, occasionally glancing over my shoulder to try to make out the hunter and what he or she was doing. A few minutes later, I heard a few leaves rustle and a squirrel hopped into view. Not moving, I tracked it with my eyes as it made its way through the thicket right in front of me, right where the animal was standing, and out the other side. I relaxed a bit, quite confused. There was no way the squirrel would have gone through that thicket with a predator within. As seconds ticked by, I relaxed incrementally. Okay, so it is gone, but where and how did it go? I turned in the direction of the hunter. I timidly called out. No response. For a few minutes, I scanned the area thinking maybe he or she can see the animal and was a way to give away their position. I sat down in my stand, hoping to get a better view through the canopy in the direction of the hunter. I could not see anything. I knew the hunter was close enough to hear me call out. I waited and waited. An hour passed. No hunter emerged, nor did one walk away. There was no hunter. I was beside myself. I have the utmost respect for the cunning and elusiveness of wild animals, and could give the beast the benefit of the doubt on being able to sneak away without being detected, even though I did not believe it had. But there no human could have gone past me or away from me from such a short distance away in these frozen, noisy conditions without me knowing it. The next couple hours were a blur. I thankfully did not see any deer that day. My mind was so wrapped around the events that had happened that I did not think my brain would have been able to direct my body through the motions of making a shot. Still expecting to hear or see someone or something, as I began climbing from the stand, I lowered my gear and made the descent. As my feet touched the ground, I noticed a movement almost immediately in front of me. Stuck in one of the bolt holes of my ladder stand was a large feather, an eagle feather. Someone must have found it and stuck it in my stand as a joke, and I guess I did not see it earlier when I climbed the ladder in the dark. Knowing this was not the case, and knowing it is illegal for anyone to possess an eagle feather that is not Native American, I left it and walked home. About 10 months later, which was about 9 months into my initiation in the field of paranormal investigation, I met a woman who was a clairvoyant. We met through a mutual friend at a get-together. I learned that she is what I call a gotcha psychic. She says things to people that either floor them or leave them thinking she's a nut job. Not much in between. About an hour after meeting her, I was standing next to her at an appetizer table. Without even looking up from the table or at the plate she was preparing, she said to me, "You know it is up to you to take care of her now, right?" When I asked her what she was talking about, she looked me in the eye and said, "The Indian girl that is buried on your property. The wolf cannot protect her from everything. You and your family are her caretakers now." And she walked away. Gotcha. Okay. So I don't know why I did that. So that was from my 3 Hunts and Ghost Stories video. Go check it out. I just wanted to finish, like, because I didn't want to just end the story, right? So I just let it keep playing. I didn't know it was 10 minutes. That's freaking long, dude. Anyways, so let's get let's get back to the baby story. Jesus Christ. big detour. I arrived at Miss Dewitt's office a little late due to the incident on the highway. Because of this, I quickly grabbed my son. Luckily, he was still there and rushed into the building, hoping that she would still take us. I hurried up to her office door and opened it, revealing two people behind it. The two people were none other than Dr. Harrison and, presumably, Miss Dewitt. They had apparently been discussing something before I barged in. What the hell? Confused, I nearly shouted at them, demanding to know what was going on. Dr. Harrison came over to me, ignoring my son altogether, and placed a hand on my shoulder. He told me that Miss Dewitt was not a specialist in infant behavior. She was a specialist in adult behavior. In other words, he said she was a psychiatrist. I was dumbfounded. Was this some sort of intervention? Was this why the secrecy? What exactly was their motive here? Again, I asked. Why me? I tried to turn around and leave, but Dr. Harrison pleaded with me. He seemed genuinely concerned about my well-being. As much as I disliked the idea of talking to a therapist, this was the first time Dr. Harrison had shown any real concern during this ordeal. I decided that it would be in my best interest to humor him, if only as a courtesy. I had thought about seeing a therapist anyway, so what did I really have to lose? Dr. Harrison said that he would take care of my son during the session, so I could be alone with Miss Dewitt. He said there could be no distractions or disruptions. I knew I could trust him with my son, so I handed him over. Dr. Harrison awkwardly held him, almost as if he never held an infant before. This was weird, but I brushed it off. Before long, I was sitting in a chair across from the one and only Miss Dewitt. It was time to open up, it seemed. Miss Dewitt was young and attractive. She had long black hair tied up in a bun, glasses, a white button-up shirt, and a black skirt that came down to her knees. Her demeanor was alluring, and her voice possessed a certain charm about it. It was comforting as well as pleasing. There was just the right amount of sex appeal there to still consider her appearance to be one of elegance and class. I could see right through this ploy. The manner in which she conducted herself was created to make it easier for me to spill my guts, so to speak. It was a ruse to get me to divulge my workings, my secrets, and darkest thoughts. Not succumb to her prying ways. Dude, I wouldn't mind having a psychiatrist like that. She can go as deep as she wants, dude. I'm just getting a lot of stories from you guys. Yeah, I'm starting to think that it's the guy's problem. But I feel like Dr. Harrison is kind of crazy as well. I don't know, guys. Some people are saying it's the sun's not real. Maybe. We began by talking about normal things. I talked about my place of employment, my home, and the people I associated with. Her questions became more and more intrusive. She asked about my childhood, my parents, and important events in my life. I didn't notice her verbal intrusions at first, because she shared with me her past as well. With every story or answer I gave her, she offered me one in return. We even laughed together about some of these stories. It was nice, to be honest. It felt like I was on a first date. She was very easy to talk to, and I had no issue with giving her the information that she desired. But that is when she went too far. After discussing some arbitrary events from my college days, Miss Stewart seemingly jumped the gun and asked me about my wife. Like glass abruptly shattering, the immersion was broken. Still similar to some first dates I've had, we began to argue, and I mean really argue. It went on for what must have been an hour. We even began yelling at each other. I don't know why, but it felt like I was fighting with a good friend. At times, it even felt like I was fighting with my wife. I can say now that Miss Dude is very good at her job and is quite the actor. Like many fights I've had with friends, this one eventually came to an end in a calm and collected manner. We actually made up and apologized to each other closer because of it. I guess there was just something about this woman that made it difficult to stay mad at her. In any case, I decided to discuss with her what had happened to my wife. She didn't even have to ask again. I just started talking. Bewildered and surprised, she sat down on her desk and intently listened. Sorry. My wife and I had a picture perfect relationship. I met her in college and we instantly became close friends. We knew everything about each other and depended on one another for support during tough times. We could always count on the other one being there. It was a great feeling to have, just knowing this. We knew we liked each other, but never once did we talk about it. On the day of our college graduation, I simply pulled out a ring and asked her to marry me. She shouted the word yes at me before attacking me with a tight embrace. It was a very spur of the moment thing for me to do. I didn't plan on it either. The idea came to my mind that very day. Even still, I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life. After settling down and putting our college degrees to use, my wife became pregnant with our son. It was not planned, but the two of us could not have been happier about it. I, for one, could think of no other person I wanted to have a child with. Things were looking up for us until about 9 months later, that is. I won't go into too much detail, but my wife died while giving birth to my son. The list of complications that led to her demise was a very long one. The fact that it made her death seem inevitable. I have since come to terms with her passing, putting all of my love and affection into our son, not only for my sake, but for hers. That is why I'm so desperate in my hunt for answers. He is all I have left of her. He is all I have left of us. Ms. Dewitt did not interrupt me even once. She was turning out to be not only a great listener, but also a great friend. I actually felt good after opening up to her. I've never told anyone about my wife before, or at least not to that length. It was cathartic, in a way. But of course, Ms. Dewitt and I were not friends. We had just met. This was a business call, a favor to Dr. Harrison. And her following questions reflected this. After hearing my long and drawn-out tale, Ms. Dewitt asked about my son and what happened to him. I had no idea what she was talking about. She asked confusing questions about what happened to him right after he was born. I simply told her that I took him home. She continued her assault of questions, but my answers was the same each and every time. What did this have to do with anything anyways? Seeing as she could not get through to me, Miss Dewitt took off her glasses and stopped asking questions. Instead, she decided to tell me some things. The first thing she told me caused a sharp chill to resonate throughout my entire body. She told me that my son was dead. Before continuing, she gave me a moment to react, and I most certainly did. I yelled at her like I did before, but she did not yell back. She was letting me alleviate my own anger, it seemed. I attempted to storm off, but she insisted that I sit down and listen to what she had to say. Whatever pseudo-friendship we may have had ended the moment she told me my son was no longer alive. but she still had a comforting charm about her. I decided to listen to her, but that did not mean I had to believe her. I sat down in my chair and remained silent. I looked at Miss Dewitt angrily while she spoke nothing but lies. She told me that due to the same complications that killed my wife, my son too passed away shortly after being born. It was her expert opinion that, unable to cope with the loss of my wife and son, I had a nervous breakdown. The breakdown was so severe that my brain needed a way to repair itself. That is where my son comes in. Apparently, it was easier for me to pretend as well as hallucinate that my son was still alive, rather than come to terms with his and her deaths. A few unexpected tears rolled down my cheeks when she told me this. I'm not exactly sure why. Ms. Dewitt continued by telling me that Dr. Harrison was very concerned over all of this. He tried his best to play along, but he couldn't stand to see me like this anymore. It seems that every time I went to his office with my son, he simply pretended he was there. He also gave me fake reactions when looking at the blank footage of an empty crib. He did this for me as a friend, knowing that I had lost my family. Could not take any more of what she was saying. It was too much. I attempted once more to get up and leave, but she begged me to stay. She told me to think about the little things that have happened to me. She said my brain was trying desperately to tell me that my son wasn't there. The reason I noticed my son's eyes looking so off is because the one and only time I saw his eyes was at the hospital after he had passed. He never laughs or cries because only living babies can do these things. The crying I heard that one night was only the memory of him crying when he was born, the only time he had ever shed a tear. The pictures vanishing in my dreams were showing me that both my son and wife are truly gone. Last but not least was the terrifying nature of it all, according to Miss Dewitt. My son and his antics did not scare me. What truly frightened me was coming to terms with his death. I let her finish before getting up and angrily walking by her to the door. She could tell I didn't believe a word of what she had told me. At first, she tried one last time to reach out to me. She reminded me of how impossible everything was that occurred with my son. She begged me to let her help. I turned around before opening the door. I looked her straight in the eye and said one last thing to her. I'm sorry, Miss Dewitt, but I will never give up my son. What the fuck? Oh my god. Slow clap. Wow. So, okay. Okay, so that is, yeah. That's smart, I gotta say. So that was it. Basically, they wanted to make us think it was a ghost story, and we truly did. All right, all of us did. And then you come and tell me this guy is dreaming of this, is hallucinating. Oh my god. Yeah, good one. What's really cool is that I didn't even read the story. It was the first time reading it and narrating it, and it rolled off the tongue because it was so well written, guys. Christopher Maxim is the author's name, so you can go check out his other stuff. I'm pretty sure this story, he said, is getting it made into like an audiobook or something like that. So if you guys missed the story, go back and listen to it. I guess today is not really scary stories from viewers, but just like creepypasta because none of you guys came in. But yeah, I hope it's not true. Like, it's not, right? It's a creepypasta? Yeah, okay. It's on Reddit No Sleep, but then there's comments like, I will no longer be posting anything about my son. I appreciate everyone's concern. Like what? Like, is this? I don't think. Right? No sleep is not real, though, right? Like, don't scare me with this stuff, dude. People are like, I hope it's true. What? Oh, so where's Waldo? Did you just donate $1 to me? Thanks, bro. I needed that $1. No, thank you. There was I think is it super chat for live streams. You guys can actually donate money to me, but hey, Pharaoh's here. What's up? Dude, you messed the story, man. But you guys can actually donate money to me. You guys don't have to though. But no, I don't hope this story is true. It's insane, dude. All right, so let's do like a 5-minute Q&A. And then that'll be the end of the video. So if you have any questions for me, hi. Yeah, the very ending was the best, guys. People are just saying how they missed it. Do you like ghosts or demons? Do you watch Walking Dead? I used to watch Walking Dead. I stopped at season 3. After, is it the Governor? Is that guy's name? Yeah, I don't know. That was a couple years ago though. Will you do any collaborations? Hopefully. What's the craziest story I've heard? This is pretty crazy, even though it's a no sleep, man. It's hardcore. You're the best, never stop. Thank you, man. Thank you, Jonathan. Have you ever tried a Ouija board? No, I have not. Why would I want to do that? I think I got yelled at because I have an uncle, and he's like but he like does like rituals, traditional rituals and stuff like that, and he kind of is in the paranormal stuff. He can like sense them as well. And then when I was a kid, like 11 and 12, me and my cousins were like talking about it, like, you know how kids like are, right? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And then he like just straight up yelled at us. And then I think that was scarier than any ghost was my uncle. He's like 6 foot something, like 6'3", super huge guy, and he just yelled at us. And I was like, okay, I'm never doing it because of him. How long you been doing scary stories? Wow, almost 2 years now. It's crazy. Over 600 videos up. So yeah. How do you submit a story? Send it to me at horrorstudio1@gmail.com. Send a bit longer, a bit more detail. I'll put it in a video, and please proofread. And I know you guys like to write on your phones and shit, but I mean, try to put commas and periods, because then it's very, hard for me, All right. Do you like ghosts or demons or jinns? I mean, I don't like either. I'm terrified of all three, like, equally, all right? Yeah, dude, I have over 600 because I post daily, that's why. Well, what did you do before YouTube? So I was always a student, and then I did retail jobs, and I did customer service jobs. And actually, when I first started YouTube, I was working at Skechers. I was selling shoes. And then I worked at a furniture company as I was also doing YouTube. But then my YouTube channel kind of took off. So I basically put a lot more effort into the YouTube channel, and then I was able to make it like a part-time job. And then eventually became a full-time job, so I could quit the other jobs I had to do. So I'm just doing YouTube as like my passion and also my full-time. Yeah, it's also a full-time thing now. And then I'm also because of YouTube, I got like other opportunities. Like I did like a competition earlier for like a TV station, and then like I host a show on TV as well now. But it's a Chinese thing though, so you guys probably won't be able to see that. And even if you don't live in Canada, you probably won't be able to see that channel anyways. But just doing some of that stuff, and then I hope to take this thing farther, because I've always loved to entertain people, any way, shape, or form. So that's why. So anyways, what time is it? All right, so let's do like 2 more minutes of Q&A and then we're done. Do you watch porn? Yeah. Should end the video now. Who doesn't? I love how I just do like a really heartfelt, you know, Q&A and then it's like, do you watch porn? Yeah. Just to kill the mood, right? Do you believe in the D-Web? Well, D-Web, I don't have to believe it. Isn't it already like, it's not like a ghost. Like D-Web is something that exists. Like, well, do you believe in shopping malls? Like, it's like, are you ever gonna do any demon stories in the future? Yeah, I shall. Start posting on Instagram. I know, I'm getting lazy. You know what? When you post a YouTube video every single day, and anything that is associated with posting something online becomes like, it creates stress, all right? But I'll try my best to post more on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook stuff. All right. What's your favorite creepypasta? 1999, bro. Maybe I should read it next time. Here. I've actually narrated that because I hype it up too much. I'm too scared I'll ruin this amazing creepypasta. That's about it. See you guys next time. Tomorrow's video, check it out. It's going to be a normal video, but yeah, I'll be doing more live streams in the future. And next time, actually come in. No one came in today. Bye.